anyone can get shredded. The question is, who can do it easily while maintaining such a state year-round? That's the topic of today's video. I'll be addressing the common traits of these rare individuals. And maybe by the end of this segment, you'll realize that you too are one of them, or maybe not. So it's important that we stop comparing ourselves to other men in general while being realistic regarding our long-term goals. So let me first say that the number one definitive feature of pretty much all shredded men, 9 out of 10 times anyway, is a puny appetite. Whether they're natty or enhanced, doesn't matter. Derek from More Place, More Dates already confirmed this by analyzing the blood work of many jacked bodybuilders and seeing that there weren't any tangible differences.
As simple and stupid as it sounds, portion control and appetite and satiation, modulation, as well as their actual brain chemistry interacting with the gut-brain axis, as well as their satiety and hunger signaling.
The only thing that's consistently been noted is individual appetite. Those who have to force feed when going through a bulking phase or don't seem to get too fat during the off season, maybe hovering around 12%, those are your shredded culprits. It's literally that simple. You look at the M physique right now and think to yourself, wow, these guys are massive. They must eat a lot of food. And it is true that they push themselves to do that, but these are your typical hard gainers. Their small appetite never went away. Sure, it might have increased, but proportional to the amount of muscle mass they gain and how that affects the TDEE, total daily energy expenditure, it's still not a lot of food. So when these people come out with their diet plans saying, hey, look how much of a joke this is for me to stay shredded, it's because it literally is for them. And I don't think they're trying to deceive you. They mean it when they say this. Like, I've seen their full days of eating. I've looked at the meals on their Instagram pages. It's an absolute joke. Like, there's one man I'm friends with, who I won't name drop, that you're probably aware of. When he goes to the restaurant, he's like, man, I'm eating all this food, I'm full, I'm happy, and he's having a great time. And you can see it in his eyes, he's not lying to you. But when I look at that same meal, I'm like, what the f***? I would be starving if I came out of the restaurant. In a bad mood, probably have to stop by some other place to get an extra meal. Or the moment I get home, I have to devour something else. Same goes for his meals at home. Tiny portions. All you have to do is weigh it out. And anyone who's been shredded that use the food scale will kind of know what the calories are based on looking at a meal. You get really familiar with that. So when you look at what these influencers are doing and they're like, man, I'm eating whatever I want in the quantities I enjoy, it's actually true. But because the net calories of that is still really low, they don't gain weight. So when we talk about dieting, you always have to think about appetite control. How do you suppress it as much as possible? Dr. Furman said it perfectly, and I'm always going to reference him for that. What you want is moderate caloric restriction in an environment of micronutrient excellence. That's what it's going to take if you're not blessed like these individuals who just don't eat that much. Secondly, when trying to get shredded, that usually requires a much lower calorie consumption. Just to say the average is 2,000 for sedentary, untrained men. When you've been dieting for months, you might be down to that level or even below. Basically, you'll be equivalent to a guy who never picked up a weight in his life. And the reason this is important is because some people do appear to have a slightly higher TDE. That's significant because every 100 to 200 calories that you can't eat plays a huge role in your appetite. And so if you can reach 8% body fat while having 2,400 calories a day, that's pretty easy. But if you're forced to be at 1,600, 1,800, that's going to be a lot harder. And typically speaking, those who have the highest TDEs are enhanced because there's so much muscle mass that it does that, or they do a lot of cardio, or maybe they work a manual labor job. They're always on their feet. So if you're not lazy, lethargic, basically your non-exercise activity thermogenesis hasn't been negatively impacted too hard, you're okay. The process should be streamlined that much more. For example, a serious natural you could check out is Bald Omni Man, and he got shredded around the same time I did. And when I watched his video on how he did it, I was shocked to hear he was still consuming in the 2000s. I would have killed just to have 2,000 calories. I wish I could have done that. So just to say, I'm not talking about high metabolisms here. That is greatly overhyped by skinny guys. You probably eat way less than you realize, and that can always be proved by tracking your calories on MyFitnessPal or Chronometer, right? So I'm not discussing that you can eat well over 2,000 calories compared to another dude who's also getting shredded. I'm saying it's going to be a little bit more, but that little difference makes a big difference hunger-wise, because if you're constantly starving and having lower energy as a result, that obviously makes the journey more difficult. So keep that in mind. Now, besides general activity level, I'll throw in the fact that depending what type of athlete you are, this also plays a role in your net calories. Usually, endurance athletes have an easier time being really lean. It is what it is. They're burning thousands of calories a week. And that's why they have a reputation for eating a bunch of garbage junk foods, because they can quite literally outwork the diet. For most of you, that's not going to be the case, considering that we have a lifting meme fitness culture that seems to think that cardio kills their gains, and they just don't do it. I don't know why gym bros are so aversive to getting their heart health on a different level and being able to eat more food and just feeling better overall, performing better in many ways. I don't get why they laugh about that, but if you're a fighter, you do a lot of jogging, cycling, grats, you can eat more food than a regular person. And so if you're not doing that already, maybe you should consider, provided you have the energy. And also, those who do calisthenics tend to have an easier time staying ripped, because those workouts generally burn more calories. We're pumping it out to the max, doing hundreds of reps in a single session, generally very high volume, moving our bodies through space, and it tends to build excellent work capacity as well. There's more of a conditioning component in these sessions. Thirdly, many serious lifters are wired differently from the average person. They are able to go through pain on a level that most will never understand. Getting outside the comfort zone completely, having no problems, suffering, looking better for a show or a few days, photo shoot, whatever it may be. The ability to sacrifice and keep going, just being patient with the overall process. Just to say, if they're doing this naturally, they probably already accepted the fact that they're going to be training for decades only to gain such a small amount. So from the start to where they are right now, the process has always been difficult and slow. And so getting shredded is just another step in that direction. So what I'm saying is the discipline from everything else they've done carries over to the diet aspect as well. Just to say, when I was chasing the 405 bench goal, I was often very tired because my body was shot. I was pushing extreme volumes and weights. And even though I ate a lot of food, there was still tremendous fatigue accumulating. And so we tend to experience similar feelings at either extreme. Therefore, getting shredded is not totally unrelatable. In a way, many serious lifters are like mini David Goggins. Maybe that's why we respect the man so much. We look up to his accomplishments, not because they're unrealistic, but due to the fact that we know he's pushing himself beyond his comfort zone at all times. And so the truth is, many lifters aren't really wired properly. We're a bit f***ed in the brain because we almost enjoy going through that level of pain. Like, I freaking passed out, hit my head, and kept going as if nothing happened. I don't think I'd be the only one. Makes sense, everybody? There is a psychology that was previously developed through years of consistency and hard work. All right, sometimes it's not easy. We're just mentally strong enough to go through the pain. And you know what? It's a good and bad thing, because that often leads to you developing all kinds of body dysmorphia and never being satisfied. So discipline and willpower is awesome, but if it comes at the expense of your own happiness, because you're always pushing the boundaries, like, is it really worth it? And with that said, let's talk about the final point: drugs. Isn't it a fantastic coincidence that the majority of these shredded influencers are fake natties? This is cause and effect. The reason couldn't be more simple. When you die down to single digit without drugs, your hormones are out of whack. Testosterone goes down, and you begin to experience many side effects that I discuss in this segment. Now, if you are enhanced, you'll probably experience that as well, but not to the same extent. Basically, the negative sensations we real natties feel at 8 to 9% is probably what the juice heads will get at 5 to 6%. At least that's just a general estimation. And it won't be to the same degree because they simply re-inject what their body's no longer optimal in, as well as taking a cocktail of cutting drugs or compounds that give you a different physique, more of that dry, grainy look. And in general, if you're carrying more muscle mass, you're going to look better in a shredded state. Just to say, if you were a novice lifter and got to single digit, yeah, you'd be contest ready, but also probably look really flat. And so an elite lifter who did the same thing as you will probably look more shredded, even if you're the same body fat percentage. So muscle mass is a huge factor to consider, as well as what these people are injecting constantly. And that's why some natural bodybuilders on YouTube get really mad and saying, don't compare what you guys are doing to what we do. It's much harder and you know it. And I think they do know it. They're just afraid to admit it maybe. But I guess because they too suffered, they don't want their audience to think that they didn't work hard, because obviously they still did. Like, I have respect for anyone who does compete in bodybuilding in terms of the discipline that it takes to get there. It's not easy. So whether you're enhanced or not, okay, it's tough, but it is harder without assistance. And that's why the vast majority of real lifetime natural bodybuilders are not shredded year round, as well as the old school legends from the past. Heck, even when looking at modern strength athletes who claim natty, they tend to hover around 12 to 15% body fat. There's a reason for this. You feel better. Anyway, that's really about it for today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed it and gained some proper insight on what it really takes to be shredded year round. So now I want to know from you, what have you personally observed in those who go down this path, or have you done it yourself? Let's see your feedback, and I'll talk to you all next time.